Welcome to episode number 176 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording on September the 11th, 2022. My name is Eric, host of the show, based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and of course, computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder, security expert, and overall safety nerd. Also not Ian.
Are you sure?
We haven't proved that yet.
Are you sure?
Nope.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I am a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
I'm Greg. I'm in Southeast Georgia, former U.S. Army infantryman and whiskey enthusiast.
All right. If you want to help support the show, keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, we've got some swag. We've got both the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch available at prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you are enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook, submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good, bad, or even if there's just a topic you want us to cover, you can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca or submit it in the Discord channel.
So we've got some speedy content for you in this episode. Yes, the terrible jokes continue into episode 176. Yeah, that one was extra bad. We're going to start off with some recent news articles. Next, we'll update you on our personal preparedness since the last episode. Then we're going to get into the main topic of 20 minutes to get out. So let's move into the news, shall we?
Not sure how I ended up first, but that's okay. Really interesting article. I found a few different sources on this. As I tend to do, I picked the most obnoxious one, and you went for with Breitbart. And there's this big thing happening in Switzerland right now where they're threatening to jail people who are who use too much energy. So they're capping the interior heating limits to like 19 degrees Celsius, which is 66 and change Fahrenheit. Water will no longer be able to be heated above 60 Fahrenheit. A couple of other things there. And there are fines and jail time. What I found really interesting is that regardless of the source, all of the articles that I found that talked about this particular story, all very specifically reference Switzerland as the home of the World Economic Forum. So I thought that was really interesting. That was like both kind of left and right wing publications all talked about that.
That is interesting.
So I don't know if everybody was just kind of copying and pasting from everywhere else, but it was. I found that to be specifically noteworthy. So yeah, great time to discuss having alternate heating methods. We've talked about that in a few episodes, things like wood and other off-grid kind of things that the government can't control.
Yeah, we may have discussed it once or twice. Yep,
once or twice.
Well, I heard an article a couple of weeks ago, and I maybe should have looked into it a bit further. And I believe it was a smaller town in Northern California where you signed on to the power company or whatever, and that gave that, unless you opted out, so in the contract it had an opt-out instead of an opt-in, where they could control your thermostat. And there was a whole bunch of people complaining because when it got super hot, they locked everybody's thermostat at 80 degrees and you couldn't turn it any colder. There were about 22,000 customers or something that got locked at 80 degrees.
Because they opted in for a service, yeah.
I'd still take 80 degrees over 110, but still.
Yeah, it sucks. 110 is quite frequent here in Georgia, especially in the summer. We don't have winter.
That'd be nice.
You know, I've had just about enough of you, Greg.
Y'all,
look at me with my rotating gun collection. Look at me with my never gets cold. Look at me with all my whiskey and low taxes.
And my fun-filled party that I'm going to throw that everybody can come to. Yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
man.
it actually it sucks. The humidity here is horrible. The bugs are horrible. It sucks. I do not like Georgia
but we
at
have
all.
the same thing here in Ontario, and then we also have -40 in the winter.
We do.
See, I'm actually a lot better with the -40 than I am like the 110, 105, all that mess. I'll take the snow all day, every day.
Oh yeah, I can bundle up and stay warm. I can only take off so much clothing and still be sweaty. Which
There's only so many layers I can take off before it becomes a felony. All right.
Exactly.
All right. So find us next on OnlyFans.
Although I will say that Eric here in the live chat makes a really valid point that you don't have to shovel humidity.
This is true. Yeah, this is very true.
Still not a fan. Not a fan of it. I'll take the snow all day.
Oh man.
So
Anyways, topic.
I've got a couple articles here. One of them is kind of falls in line with our podcast tonight. BC wildfires are leading to evacuation orders. So there's several wildfires going on in British Columbia. Specifically, let me find the article here again. There is one. The Fraser Valley Regional District has issued an evacuation order for a handful of properties near what's called the Flood Falls Trail Fire in the area of Laidlaw. It's west of Hope along Highway 1, and apparently I've heard that maybe Highway 1 may also be closed. So if you're in there, you either can't get back into your place if you've left, or I don't know how they're going to work that, but if you don't have fuel or you don't have food or anything, you may be stuck in there. But a lot of places have thrown up an evacuation alert, and some of them have an evacuation order. So,
yeah. Well, that's timely for this episode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure is.
And the other quick one I have is just again on our whole supply chain lack of food issue was basically listing the top 10 items that you might not find in your grocery store. Some of them are interesting. Some of them are obvious. I'll quickly whip through them just to chat. Believe it or not, chickpeas is on the list because of the invasion of Ukraine. It's caused a large drop. So you may soon find your hummus having something else in it.
It better not be fingernails.
No. Oh no.
No. Wheat, obviously, we know that's coming. Sugar, believe it or not, the largest sugar producer in the world is Brazil, and they have diverted more of their sugar cane to producing ethanol than regular sugar. Due to the high energy prices, it means more money for them. But of course, it leads to a drop in sugar supply, leading to increased prices and shortages. Canned goods, obviously, we've noticed that. There's been an aluminum shortage for a while. That continues, and that's one of the part of the main reasons for it.
See, I call shenanigans on that because aluminum is the most recyclable product that we have, right? Like aluminum is a lossless recycled product. So if you take a pound of scrap aluminum and you recycle it into something new, you have a pound of aluminum at the end. So I call shenanigans, and I think that that's part of a larger conspiracy. But
Yeah, could be.
But we're also seeing an increased demand because now we have to make trucks out of aluminum because apparently that's what's going to save the planet.
Yeah. Eggs and meat, obviously, I think we've seen a bit of a shortage of that here and there. Baby formula, a lot of people with the small kids went through that. And
that's been fun to navigate.
Yep. And funny enough, number 10 on the list is liqueur, specifically champagne, wine, and beer.
Oh,
it's not good. And again,
hold on. All those things are good. It's just not good. There's
the shortage is the not good part.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Just wanted to
shortage
clarify
is
that. I didn't want any
So
confusion on that.
again, they're blaming part of that on the shortage of aluminum cans. So are we seeing a pattern here? But
Champagne
anyways,
and wine do not come in aluminum cans. Again,
They do
I
not.
declare shenanigans.
Yep. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans this evening, isn't there?
I'm 3
Yes.
whiskeys deep. There will be.
but the beer certainly does, and that's
Mhm.
a lot more of that drank than wine, I would believe. So, anyways, I'll leave it at that because Alan's just going to go on a rant if I keep going. So, end it there.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we should take a second and mention the fact that it is September the 11th today. So take a minute to remember those that lost their lives. And it's a pretty significant day. So I want to mention that.
343 firefighters, 20 police officers, 8 paramedics EMTs, 2,997 citizens. Off the top of my head.
Yep. That's a lot. So
Mhm.
just want to take a second to mention that and make sure everybody takes a minute out of their day to remember those and lost their lives. And we'll carry on with what we've done lately for preps. We'll start with Jeff.
I only did my monthly generator tests. I didn't have much time this week between being down at my mom's for the long weekend and being out at the fish camp for several days. There wasn't much time to do anything, so I squeezed in my generator tests, and that was it.
So clearly you had a little bit of alcohol and forgot about the ham radio test we did out at the fish camp, huh?
You did that, and I'm going to let you take the credit for it. I'm not going to steal your thunder.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
After all the time we spent ribbing you about getting your license, you should be celebrating everything you do with your
It's true. We ribbed you for quite a while. Oh,
You did. And there are other people you could rib, and you just don't want to now. I don't
That's-
get it.
It's true.
it's not
because
nearly as much fun.
It's so much more fun with you, Jeff.
I'm still trying to figure out how to work mine.
But you got licensed though fairly
So is
quickly.
Jeff.
Oh yeah. So for myself, if you didn't catch it already, yeah, we were out at the fish camp for about 4 days there. A lot of fishing out of the cooler, not so much out of the lake, but that's okay. But got a lot of time to play around with the ham gear, so I got the mobile set up out in an area where there is no power. So we're working with the solar panels to keep the batteries charged up. Had my mobile rig out there. And the furthest contact we were able to make was Barcelona, Spain. And we were only able to get about 20-ish watts out with the amplifier hooked up. So I got some troubleshooting to do with that, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. But I was pretty impressed with getting Barcelona, Spain on about 20 watts. And we got a solid 5.9 signal report from them. So I was pretty happy with that. Learned quite a bit too.
You were powering your radio with solar panels. Is that what you said?
We're using the solar panels to keep the batteries topped up.
Okay.
So we'd switch
What kind of batteries were you running on that?
So I've got the LifePo 4s. So they're 20 amp hours. They're eco-worthy batteries, eco-worthy solar panels as well. Found out actually that the solar charge controller that was hooked up to the eco-worthy battery is noisy as heck. So we would go from a noise floor of about S2, which is fantastic. We'd plug the solar controller into the battery with the battery hooked up to the amp to get everything running, and the noise floor would jump to S9 plus. Well, there goes that plan of running the solar panel to keep the battery topped up while running the radio, because it just wiped everything out.
Interesting.
So that's what you get when you get a cheap solar controller, right? So now the plan is to get a worthwhile solar controller and try it again and see if maybe the noise drops and doesn't interfere with the radio. But lesson learned, but we still were able to run it, and we just didn't charge the battery while we were running the radios. And then we ran into
the solar panels did work very well. One of the guys in our group there brought along a portable power pack. He has a
little
CPAC
Jackery
machine, and the solar panels in direct sunlight took it from about 48 or 49% to 100% in probably less than 3 hours.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was good.
Awesome.
It was pushing about 63 to 65 watts into it, so we're pretty happy with that. And
That's
it was fun. It was fun to get the gear out and play around with it for a bit. And like I said, I was pretty impressed with Barcelona, Spain. But more importantly, we were able to get the Jays game at night. So that was good. So we were able to sit around the fire, listen to the Jays.
Then nothing else matters.
and then nothing else matters. It was good. Beyond that, before getting out to the camp, signed up for a new service that I found out about for data broker removal. So they'll go and send requests to remove all your information from various data brokers. Figured the price was good. It was $63 if you use the code NORD30. So I'll put the information in the show notes and in the live chat here if anybody else is interested in having that done. It works for Canada, US, and Europe right now. And they contact about 83 data brokers to say, hey, you've got this person's info in your database. Take it out, or here's all the things that we're going to send your way as far as rules and regulations that say you have to. And they will actually follow up with that as well. So I thought $63 Canadian was pretty reasonable for 1 year of that service. So if anybody is looking to have their info removed, check out the show notes and the live chat here for that info.
Not a bad idea. I might do the same thing.
I'll do it.
There you go. It's cheaper for you too because the American dollar, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut from here on out.
See, I was trying to hook you there, and then we were just going to kick you off the show. It passed. You can stay.
I got a bunch of yard work done this weekend. Getting things kind of prepared for the change of season. Got some work done and some more work done in the garage. I'm just about there for getting my lighting finished, and then I can have my electrical passed, and I'm ready to close it in. Hopefully, I'll have it toasty warm by the time the snow flies. Finally got around to finding and digging up the caps for the septic tank so we can have the tank serviced. We've been here 5 years now, so it's just about time. So that was thanks to my father-in-law's metal detector that saved me a whole lot of digging and refilling holes in my in my yard. We canned 5 liters of tomato sauce, and then when I say we, I was in the room while my wife did it. She also made about 1 liter or so of hot sauce from the jalapenos that we grew. Those are that tomato sauce that we did was all from our garden. Getting back into hockey season. That started up today for my youngest, and getting him out on the ice for the first time in a little bit. So it's about to start getting really busy, and that's about all I got for now.
I did a little bit of weapons maintenance here the past couple weeks. Yesterday we made some fix and wax, which is for like high carbon steel, keeping it from rust and stuff like that on your knives, and it's good for conditioning your leather. You can use it for like chapstick, just normal stuff out like that.
It's chapstick, it's leather conditioner, it's rust remover, it's shampoo.
Yeah.
It'll condition your cast iron.
It's a toothpaste too.
I don't know if I do that.
keeps the fan belt in your
Keeps the cavities shiny.
Yeah. Started planning a trip with some buddies. Gonna do a little camping trip. Literally just taking our bags and going out. We rented a little spot here at one of the Fort Morris here in Georgia. So gonna go out there for a night, take just our go bags, our get home bags, just our stuff that we would keep on us, like in our vehicles, stuff like that. Went through, and me and my wife did an EDRI today, which is an emergency deployment readiness exercise, and went to one of our rendezvous points where if we had to get out of town or something like that, meet up with our guys or anything like that, from our house, getting there, clearing it, making sure it's, not, in danger or anything like that, did that today. So it's been pretty eventful.
Ooh, very nice.
It's a good time.
Yeah. Wow. Shall we move into the main topic for this evening? So first, to touch off, May 31st, 2020, we did episode number 70. It was titled Unpacking the 5-Minute Bug Out. So Hughes, who is a panelist on the show, had a bug out event occur at his residence. through his employment or his official capacity in the fire department, he got a little bit more heads up, or at least the ability to give his family some more heads up about a wildfire coming their way. So we had about an extra 10 minutes. By this time, emergency responders were able to get to his residence to warn his family that it's time to hamstring and get out. They only had 5 minutes notice. So there was a lag time between the notice going out and emergency responders being able to actually notify his family that it's time to go. So in reality, he had about 15 minutes notice. So 5 minutes official notice, 10 minutes notice that he had learned through his official capacity. And we unpacked that and how it went. Those of you that have watched shows with Hughes know how incredibly organized he is, and he has all of his checklists and all of his plans squared away and pretty much step by step laid out already. And he found that amount of notice was just not enough time to get everything to go. He thought it would be, but it wasn't. So we decided with all the news the last little while as far as wildfires happening in Canada, the one in Alberta kind of sparked this episode. And there was the one that we talked about in the news article as well that's happened. We figured we'd do another episode, but this time we're going to give everybody 20 minutes. So you get an extra 5 or so minutes depending on which scenario you want to run with, whether it be just the 5 minutes official notice or the extra 10 minutes. But the scenario for the episode is a major event is coming your way. So an example in Hughes' scenario, it was a wildfire, but use your imagination for whatever you'd like it to be. Authorities are evacuating your area and you've got 20 minutes to pack up and get out. Or we can also spin it with, or stay and face the consequences on your own. Up to you. But if you had 20 minutes notice, do you think it would make a difference versus the 5 minutes or the 15 minutes that Hughes had in the episode 70 scenario? So let's open it up to the panel here and let's start the discussion.
So I ran out of time to put the actual notes or my actual thoughts in the notes, and I'll have that done before the end of the episode. But my name happens to come up first, so here we are. Most of the things that we need to take with us are in containers at ground level so that we can just grab them and go. Assuming that both my wife and I are home, one starts loading, the other one takes all the fuel cans and make sure that both the vehicles are topped up. I'd rather have the fuel in the tank than have to carry it and refuel partway. Then whatever's left gets put on board. By the time that's done, the bulk of the containers should be loaded and ready to go, and off we go in separate vehicles to the reasonable destination in whichever direction takes us away from the threat. So we have part of our plan is to have north, south, east, and west muster points so that we can regroup there and figure out where we're going from there. But they're all far enough away that whatever is happening kind of in our immediate area won't be a threat there.
Fair enough.
So, right, we've got things in containers already because, kind of like Hughes, I'm a big fan of having things kind of at the fingers and ready to go, and so those containers are at ground level and ready to rock.
Yeah. Now, is there any kind of trailering involved in that scenario?
No, that's what we can put in the vehicles because,
Gotcha.
A, I just don't have room for a trailer, and B, it makes the vehicles far less maneuverable, and then we have to make a decision as to what disappears. So so the intent is just it's pretty minimal, honestly. Without we're leaving a whole lot of stuff behind, right? 20 minutes is not long, and not having a trailer does not give us a lot of option, but we're leaving a lot of stuff behind, but it's in that you have you have 20 minutes to get out. That's camping gear and food, and
Fair.
we load and go. And the intent is not to exist on any kind of permanent basis out of that. It's to get us to the next destination.
Right. So that's one thing that came up in Hughes's breakdown is he was relying on his trailer quite a bit, and he found that getting hooked up to that trailer took longer than anticipated. In the actual given scenario, it took, I think he quoted
Absolutely
about 5 or 10 minutes to get it loaded, hooked up to the truck, and gone. Only had 5 minutes, right? So, And then under stress, of course, you're going to do things a little bit not as easily. So something.
Well, and if we were to rehearse that particular operation, 100 times, and then doing the refresher training every month, every 6 weeks, every quarter, whatever it is, that might change things. But like right now, like I've hauled a trailer twice in the past year, and it was not under any kind of duress, and it was not a fast process getting it hooked up. So
it's going to take some time.
Exactly. So I would expect the same thing. I would expect the same thing now. But that's, and that's, assuming it is that I have to leave. Yeah. But that's right. The vehicles already have emergency kits in them. So that's a couple of changes of clothes. That's a little bit of food. That's, the first aid supplies. The things we would bolster with are camping supplies and like all the non-perishables. And that stuff can be packed up and go pretty quick.
Fair enough. Freya brings up a good point in the live chat. Just mentioning that depends on what type of disaster is coming. 100%. That's totally going to change what your risk assessment is and how you're going to do things for sure.
Yeah, and so like in this scenario, right? Assume that it's like a wildfire in Fort McMurray, right? That kind of concept where you just don't get a choice, right? Like you are not coming back to the home that you thought you had, and you simply have to get out.
Yep. And Pat in the bunker in the live chat mentions that I'd probably need more like 10 minutes. Got 4 kids if I wanted to get everything I needed. So that's something else to factor in. If you're dealing with just adults, you're going to be able to get out a heck of a lot faster than if you're trying to wrangle some kids, because they're just not going to understand what's going on, and getting them into the car and getting them all loaded up and getting all their stuff as well, depending on their ages, is going to be tricky. And
I would argue that that's a good excuse to have a bag for each of them, even in their room, right? Throw it under the bed, throw it in the closet, whatever, but there's always a bag for each of them ready to go. And then
just in case
I can grab the kid, I can grab the bag, and we can be down the stairs in 30 seconds, right? So 30 seconds times 4 is only 2 minutes, and you've got all 4 kids in a contained area, and they're ready to rock.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of the time this kind of scenario, everybody focuses on bringing enough to get by for like months on end. It's just not going to happen. You're looking to get through, like you said, Al, in the next couple of days, maybe the next week tops. But the months on end scenario, you're not getting out in 20 minutes.
No, absolutely not. And that's
not happening.
And that's the big thing. And I think we've been talking about this like over and over and over again. I know I've said it, I at least in episode 70. So at least since then, right? If you don't have some place to go, you're not surviving. You're not escaping. You're just prolonging the situation that you're in, right? So if you've got to have a place to go, you've got to have a bug out location. And that bug out location doesn't necessarily have to be like a cabin in the woods with food and caches of food, water, and weapons, right? That can be right my buddy's house in 2 towns over where this same threat might not be, right? Or that could be
exactly
that could be that I have enough cash that I can go get a hotel a few hours down the road where it's not where the emergency is not happening. So
exactly,
like we're not talking about like this is not the end of the world as we know it. This is a localized emergency, and I have the ability to escape.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a really big thing to take into consideration. It's like I'm not going to be living out of my car for more than overnight.
Well, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people get focused as well in this type of scenario of it's all go out in the middle of nowhere, camping out in the woods, out in the the big bunker in the ground kind of scenario, and that's not the picture we're painting. Because could that happen? Absolutely, but this is kind of a more realistic thing that's going to affect you day to day. So yeah, great points. Could be a hotel room, could be a buddy's place or a family member a couple of towns over. Yeah, 100%. Some good points in there.
And that comes back to your planning, right? Like your planning is where am I going? What am I doing? Right? Because it's one thing to say, yes, I can leave here. It's quite another to figure out like where am I going? Right? And
going to,
am I, if I'm going to, if I'm going to like my perfect bug out location, but it's 10 hours away because I live in a fairly congested area, right? How am I going to get there? Right? 10 hours means I'm more than a tank of fuel. I'm if it's a widespread disaster, it's a small scale disaster, right? But I've got to have waypoints along the way. So there's a lot to consider. But let's assume that I'm not I'm assuming that I'm just evacuating a local emergency, and I've got to go a couple of hours, maybe 4 hours, right? That would be about the furthest that I'd be interested in going with what I can carry with me.
Yep. So I'm going to take a second and put this comment up. I really hope that David is using some really good internet OPSEC, and that's not his real name, or his wife is not watching.
So, Mrs. Sherwood, I would like to let you know that David doesn't want to bring you with him, and therefore, you should just make the plans to go without him. Pull a reverse card on him, and leave him behind.
So I really hope he doesn't know Hillary Clinton. We'll never see him again.
So those listening to the audio version of this show, David has written in the live chat, is bringing the wife mandatory. So again, I really hope you've got some good internet OPSEC going on here. That's not your real name.
It's not mandatory, but the consequences are yours and yours alone to bear. So
yes, exactly. We're not touching that question with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, we're not going to start talking about the insurance fraud.
In my specific circumstance, that's a non-negotiable. My wife is coming with me.
Yeah, mine as well.
How you live your life is entirely up to you.
Oh man.
So I'll touch on quickly. There's a comment in there from Eric, the other Eric, basically saying in his area, the only thing that worries him is tornadoes. Maybe he has 1 to 2 minutes. My advice as a weather nerd is don't get in your vehicle and try and outrun a tornado. The chances of that happening are slim, and the chances of you dying are very high. Yes, you may have 1 or 2 minutes, and that's all you have. Get somewhere that's safe, get in a basement, an interior room, whatever. Please don't get in your vehicle and try and outrun a tornado.
That's not a bug out situation. Yep. That's a stay and play.
Yeah, that's a get the low ground ASAP thing.
Yep. And yes, that is a huge consideration, especially where you are up near base Borden there. But that's you're not outrunning that. Even if you have 2 minutes to evacuate, you're not going to outrun it. So just stay low, right? Yep. Get low. Have your basement stuff ready to rock, because you're not going anywhere.
Well, Kyle in the live chat asks, how many CGN deals can you do in 20 minutes? I don't know. I'd ask Ian, but he's decided to completely ghost us.
Yeah, Ian got locked up and doing other things, so he's not joining us tonight. The answer is somewhere between 1 and 45. The practical answer is enough to make it worthwhile.
Nope. At least 3, so that you can say CGN 3 times, and maybe Ian will come back.
Exactly, but you have to do it in a dark mirror.
Yes, it's true. Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, so bringing us back around to the topic for this evening, as far as leaving or staying, given the given scenario, is anybody actually going to try and stay and battle it out, or are we all taken off? If we're using like the wildfire scenario, for example, that Hughes was unpacking in episode 70.
If it's a wildfire, I'm getting out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
If it's a wildfire, then my wife and my 2 dogs are going to leave. I'm going to have to go up the road and go to work, because I just started as a wildland firefighter. So I'm not going anywhere fast.
And that's kind of the scenario Hughes was in too, because he's a firefighter. He said that a few times in the previous episodes, so we can say that here now. But that's something to keep in mind. Especially most of us on the panel are in some type of emergency service, so most of us are going to be called out to that major event, and our families are going to be left behind, right? So they kind of fend for themselves. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If your particular profession is going to be one that has you called to deal with said emergency, get something in place for your family members that they can follow without you being there. Sometimes that's something that's overlooked and not thought of, right? But get something in place that they can follow easily, and make sure it's practiced as well, and get those rendezvous points kind of figured out, and how you're going to contact each other and confirm that everyone's okay. and have a plan for yourself too, right? How are you going to get out once you've completed your required tasks for your given profession? Just having a look through the live chat here to see if we've got anything else that we can touch on. Kyle mentions the unicorn again. Yes, like we mentioned, Ian is tied up with some family stuff tonight and some work stuff the last couple of episodes. So we like to give him a rough time, but he hasn't fully disappeared on us. He's just busy with life right now, so he will be back.
We have heard from Ian recently. Like, he is still alive and kicking, just not here.
Yeah, he almost got the Discord completely shut down. Yeah,
does not have, and somebody get your pen ready. He does not have seal poisoning. We've confirmed that. And that's,
there it is. 35 minutes. Oh man.
Back on the topic there, I kind of said sort of a bit of what Alan said. It's assess the threat. What is the threat? Is it something that's short term, or is it going to turn out to be something potentially a bit longer of a term? And good what point. Is the threat to the homestead? Is it low, medium, high? Is it going to be something widespread or localized? If it's localized, you could just go somewhere close. If it's widespread, you need to go further away. And is your bug out location or your location of meeting people or anything like that, is it also in the affected area? And do you need to change that location? I don't have kids, so I guess that's a good thing, bad, whatever way you want to do it. I've just got basically, grab some food, some non-perishable stuff, water, or a device to purify your water, and weather-dependent clothing. And I'm going to caveat all of those by saying you should already have some of those already in your vehicle, at least I do, or already packed in your bug-out bag that is just a grab and go. Yeah, I've got those plastic tubs, and I would just dump a bunch of canned food in that tub, throw it in the back of the truck, and I'm off. I always carry extra fuel in my vehicle anyways, but like Alan said, I would make sure that all my fuel cans are in there, and and just assess it as you go. Don't just take off and run. Know where you're going and why you're going there and what the situation is. So if you live, say, potentially in a floodplain, and this is the other thing is I would say this, most of these situations, so the wildfires, I'm thinking of flooding, that kind of stuff, is not going to be the huge scenario where it suddenly happens and you've got like 10 minutes to get out of Dodge. I would say that's the rare occurrence. It will happen, but for the most part, you're going to know it's coming if you're paying attention, and you should be paying attention.
That's a really good point.
What's going on around you, and if the weather forecast for the next 4 days is saying we're going to get torrential rain for the next 4 days, and then all of a sudden you get a flash flood and you go, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." Well, you should have maybe seen it coming, and you should have been prepared. So.
No, that's a good point on just kind of keeping your eye on the weather, right? Knowing what's happening around you.
Yeah, and also on the somebody was saying have different plans for different scenarios and know the plans well. That's kind of where the whole PACE plan came into play that we talked about a few episodes back. Your primary, your alternate, contingency, and emergency. So, emergency being your absolute worst case scenario. For me personally, if with me in a wildfire situation, obviously I'm gonna have to stay here. First thing I'm gonna do is my wife keeps her bag in her vehicle and I keep a bag in my vehicle. She's working on her ham radio license as well now. I just got my truck rig hooked up and everything, and I have crossband repeating. So if I'm in the woods, fighting a fire, I can actually key, like before I leave my truck, I'll put my radio on crossband repeating and then have my handheld, because my distance on my handheld, an analog handheld, is not going to be, nearly as good as that, truck rig would be. So the crossband repeating, for people that don't know, will allow me to basically use a simplex, which is just a shorter distance, to talk to my truck, and then my truck will repeat that or send that to the repeater and giving me more distance, essentially.
It's a very handy feature to have, especially in that scenario.
Yeah. So something like that, my wife would load the car up with the 2 dogs. She would have one issue with one of our dogs because he's 70 pounds and he doesn't know how to jump.
Ooh.
At all.
Yep.
So, poor Sammy. But our communication would be ham radio, and depending on where it's coming from, where it's headed, would determine where she's going to go during our evacuation plan on that. So the ham radio is definitely a good tool to have in your arsenal. Yep. It's definitely communication is a very important thing. So
yeah, sure is.
If all the cell towers are not working because everybody's trying to use their cell phones, you've always got your radio to fall back on. And you can also, there's I can't remember what it's called, but as long as your cell phone has service, you can transmit off of your cell phone, off of an app. I can't remember what it's called. It might be Echolink. Echolink, yeah. Yep. So you basically just hit down a button, yep, talk through your phone, and then it transmits. So that's pretty cool, because even though you wouldn't have, you'd have service, but you just couldn't get out.
Yep.
You could use your radio essentially.
Yep.
To go from there.
Echolink will use the data. So it's an internet application. It works over the internet. It will link to different repeaters, so you can look up repeaters anywhere in the world. And then you can log into them and you can transmit on them. And it's as if you are transmitting from that repeater via a handheld or other type of radio. So it is very handy to have, but like you mentioned, you do need to still have data. But if you still have data, and a lot of people will be trying to get outbound calls going in an emergency situation, so the data side of things might not be overworked, or overloaded, so you could potentially make that work. And yeah, in a pinch, if you've got to get out and you can't on voice on your phone, and you've got Echolink, load it up, hop on the local repeater and hit transmit, and then you can hear people reply back as well. So it's not just a one-way thing where you transmit, cross your fingers, and hope. You'll hear the reply as well on the repeater. So that's actually a really useful tool to have.
Yeah.
But again, it does require you to have a ham license, and they actually validate the fact that you are licensed before you get access to the app. But once you have access to it, it's very handy, and you can actually talk phone to phone with it as well. So if you've got a bunch of people that are ham operators on Echolink, you can do the voice chat. Again, it's data based. It's not using the frequencies at all. But it's another form of communication, and why not take advantage of it if you've got it and it's available to you?
Yeah,
use it.
I'm very big on having your contingencies and stuff like that. Have multiples, because at the end of the day, things break, things malfunction. So you got to have those backups and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of brings us to the comment in the live chat from Rock and Ryan Olson. Just says, planning to a hotel in the next town over. So is everyone else. So multiple places need to be considered, plus road closures with alternative routes. It's like you've listened to one or two of our previous episodes there, Ryan.
Yeah, it sounds like he's got good taste.
Yep.
We've never said that before at all.
No, never.
No,
never.
That's the first time we mentioned it. That's right.
We've never considered that before until just now.
No. Yeah. It's true.
Another good thing, I know everybody touches on it here and there, but GPS can go down as well.
Yep.
One thing that me and my wife have in both of our vehicles is a map of our entire state. So just you can get a random map at pretty much any truck stop, visitor center, and it's all going to be of at least the surrounding towns or usually the entire state. It's all free. It's not going to hurt to just grab one, throw it in the glove box.
Why not?
Pull it out, look at it every now and then, figure out how to read a map. If you don't know how to read a map, figure it out.
Yep.
And it's that's a good time to put your muster points, your waypoints, your ideal locations on it, right? So if all you can transmit is like one or two text messages, because of the volume of traffic, right? Maybe that text message that gets through just says muster point A.
Yeah.
Right, and that's all that gets through. You can't have a long conversation that says go to the place where the thing and the guy is. It's just muster point A, right? Yeah. And if I open up my map, I know where that is, and then I can see, hey, this road is closed. Perhaps what are the other roads around it? Because that's we're so reliant on our technology these days.
True.
It's definitely a good idea to have a low tech and no tech option backwards or available. All right, go backwards on it.
Nope, really good point.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, down here in the comments, Donna, she says, how many people have taken any kind of first aid training to prepare for a shit hit the fan? So a lot of people may think like, oh, I don't have any EMT training or anything like that. All I know how to do or all I have at my disposal is YouTuber, a really expensive class here and there. Like, no, you can go to pretty affordable, or if not free, FEMA classes, the Stop the Bleed classes, stuff like that. Because it's not like a shootout scenario doesn't mean that you're not going to be bleeding. Trauma doesn't just come from a gunshot wound. And I've had that conversation with several people like, oh, why do I need a tourniquet in my, my everyday carry? I don't plan on getting in a shootout in the woods. Well,
yeah.
What happens when you get a limb or a stick through your leg?
So in my area, right? So in Ontario, we have approximately 50 to 75 shootings in an average year. Most of them are concentrated in about a 3-block radius around Jane and Finch in Toronto, but it's not a lot of shootings. Despite that, we have 12 trauma centers.
Yep,
that's all you need to know about that. Right, we have trauma centers. We have trauma centers for like spread out over the province. Yep. Despite the fact that we don't have shootings, so shootings are not the risk. Right, trauma happens from car crashes. Trauma happens from tripping going up the stairs with a glass bottle in your hand. Right, trauma happens for all kinds of reasons. I put a link in the live chat, and I'll throw it in the show notes as well, for the Red Cross. Now this is Canadian Red Cross comprehensive guide to first aid and CPR. This is about a 400-page document that covers just about everything. It's a great tool, and I say this as a Red Cross first aid instructor. Also, get the Red Cross Canada app. Now, Greg, I don't know if you would have access to that, and I don't know what the American app looks like, but the Canadian app has little videos of how to do things. It's got little quizzes so you can keep your skills up to date. It's got lots of options, as well as just a lookup. Like it's literally like hey, somebody's bleeding, tap here. Somebody's having a stroke, tap here. Somebody has hypothermia, tap here. And it'll literally put step by step instructions on there for you. So the app is great. The first aid, the comprehensive manual is a lot more in depth. Because I have the requirement, so I have a printed copy of it because I teach first aid and I reference that book every time I teach it. I sent it out to Staples to get it printed. It's about 400 pages. Had it printed on both sides. Put a cover on it. Spiral bound. It cost me about $60. To me, that is well worth it to have a reference point there. Yeah, this is a good time to talk about your resources, right? We've had Dr. Joe Alton on our show a couple of times, Dr. Bones, that survival medicine handbook. That's in my bin of stuff that goes with me. right? That's
Good point.
a 1,000-page manual of there's no doctor here. What do I need to do? Because as was it Eric in the chat mentioned, right? Just because you have the idea of going to the next town over for a hotel, so does everybody else. Assume if this is a major disaster that hospitals are going to be overwhelmed and you can't even get there, let alone get treatment in any kind of reasonable time. So have something going on there. Also, there are quite literally millions of resources on YouTube. Stop the Bleed. Prep Medic is a good one, and we should probably reach out to him, see if he wants to come on the show. CTOMS, we've had them on the show. They've got an entire virtual training program.
Yep. And if it's still active, we've got a code with them, CPP10, for a quick discount. So.
And like that type of training is not expensive, right? That's, you're spending maybe $50 to $100 at a time. A standard first aid course is about $120. If you're paying more than that, you're getting taken for a ride. Most Stop the Bleed courses are free. And if you're in Southwestern Ontario and you want to host a Stop the Bleed course and you can get at least 6 people, shoot me an email. I will run a course for free. I'll make that happen for you. CPR and Stop the Bleed will save most lives. The rest of it is pretty well common sense. What looks like it's wrong, and what should it look like when it's not wrong, and what can I do to bridge that gap? So there's lots of stuff there. The books are available, right? We've got if you go back into some of the show notes from previous episodes, especially where we've talked about medical things, there are all kinds of links in those notes going all the way back about where to find those books. Darius makes a really good point here in the live chat, and he could have just come on the show if he was going to be this active. But end of semester, you go to the bookstores and they'll have the end of season, right? Especially if a new book is coming out, they'll have sales on the books that you might need to know. So there's lots of options to have them, even if you don't keep the stuff keep the information up to date. Just having the reference available, right? Know where to find it in the book and have the information available to you. We'd love to think that doctors just know what to do in every situation. We just don't see them looking things up. They're just more subtle about it, right? They call it consultation time, right? Yep. So it's not expected to know what to do, but know where to find the information and have that available. So keep that off, those offline apps in books plus the online apps. Right, Stop the Bleed has an app, right? How to do that. Red Cross has an app. I'm sure there are other organizations that have that information available.
There's a website that you can literally get every book that the United States military's medics and doctors use, all for free. I can't remember the name of it right now. I've got it written down somewhere. I will get that and I can put it in the notes or give it to y'all. You can put it in the notes on the next episode or on a future episode. I will find it for sure. Because it's for the TCCC combat stuff. And a lot of it is stuff that hasn't been introduced into the civilian point of things. Usually how it works for at least the United States anyway, it gets tried out in the military where the test dummies. And then if it's a hit, then it gets pushed over into the civilian side of things. So I will find that and I will get it put on here.
Awesome.
It's a good source of information.
Sounds like it. Well, to swing us kind of back around to the topic, Kyle in the live chat has mentioned, because earlier I said, are you going or are you staying in the wildfire scenario? Kyle mentions wildfire. He's staying in place. He's got access to a dozer. He's just going to create a fire lane. Pros and cons to that, but there's another option for you. So I know most of us said we are the heck out of here. A lot of people in the live chat also said, nope, it's time to pack up and get out. Kyle's got an opposite view on it. He's making that fire lane and he's staying put. So,
if he can get a hold of a V-blade then absolutely there's no reason for him to, if he can get to that V-blade in time, drop it to the ground and basically dig it around his house and watch it. I mean, that's pretty much all we would do, is try to throw it back over onto itself and let the dirt smother it out.
Yeah. So I want to highlight that, because there are options, right? Everybody will have a different scenario, a different set of circumstances, and a different set of skills. Right?
Different resources as well.
Yeah. So it's it all depends on what you are prepared to deal with, where your comfort level lays, and kind of how your specific situation's laid out. Because that scenario is not going to work for everybody, but the getting up and taking off scenario is not going to work for everybody either. So.
Yeah, and Darius makes a good point in the live chat too. He says part of the issue isn't the flames, it's the smoke.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep. If that smoke is really thick, I mean, it's going to significantly affect your breathing, no matter what kind of shape you're in.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Anybody have anything else they want to add to the topic
I think I found that link that Greg was talking about. It's operationalmedicine.org.
I think so, actually.
So
I think that might be it.
I put a link to that in the live chat, and I'll put that again in the show notes, because that's that looks like I didn't dive into it here, but I just interned it a little here, and that seemed like a pretty good resource. So
awesome.
I'll have links to both that and the first aid manual in the show notes shortly.
Perfect. So here's a good question from Donna in the live chat as well. Are the N95 masks any good for smoke? Anybody?
Nope. They will help filter out particulate, but the real challenge of smoke is not what you inhale; it's the part where oxygen is displaced. So you need, like, on a very light level, like outside, yes, it would help. Inside, no, it wouldn't help.
Any other comments for the topic? If not, we'll move along. Yes, I think we covered off the basics. I think it boils down to being organized, having a plan, practicing said plan, and just realizing that you're not leaving and taking enough gear for you to survive the next 2, 3, 4 months. It's literally a couple days to get you by to get to a more secure location. And everybody kind of gets hung up on I need the 3, 4, 5 month supply with me. This is a bad situation. You got to get the heck out now.
Grab a handful of MREs, throw them in the bag, and get out
and go. Yeah. All right, so we will move into the podcast challenge then. So your podcast challenge for episode 176 is get an evacuation plan in place for your household, and is everybody ready for this? Practice it.
No.
Know what to do. Yeah,
Come on.
That's it. Well, good luck with your emergency then. But yeah, in seriousness, get it in place, get it practiced, and make sure that all the family members or all the folks that are in your household know what it is and know how to execute it and have it ready to go. Because if not, if it actually boils down to you've got 20 minutes to get out, you're not going to be able to plan, pack up, and get out in those 20 minutes, and it's just not going to go well for you. So take the time now and get it all lined up and ready to go. Upcoming events, we don't have any. So it's starting to dry up a little here, but if we hear of anything, we will let you know. We've got a little weather blurb from Jeff.
Yes. So hot, dry weather continues to dominate most of the West Coast, basically from California all the way up into BC. As I mentioned earlier, this has caused wildfires all up and down the coast from California to BC. I've got a link in there for a little article about that. On the good side to that, what causes issues is a rare tropical storm hit Southern California, but because of the amount of wildfires they had and that it stripped the ground of vegetation and trees and whatever, that it just led to flash flooding all over the place. So, I mean, you've got it good on one side. You finally got some rain, but it's led to some flash flooding. So good things come with bad. The Atlantic hurricane season is going to be much less active than normal. Up till a couple weeks ago, they were still insisting that and forecasting a higher than average hurricane season. Now they're admitting it does not appear that it's going to happen. That's good news from the perspective of property damage and all that kinds of stuff. Doesn't mean there's not going to be any storms, but it looks like they will be smaller and less frequent.
Good to know. Deal of the week. So we've got Princess Auto's got a couple of deals I threw in the notes here. One is for an LED 40 lumen bulb shaped tent light. So it's got a little carabiner and you can hook it in your tent regularly on for $6. They've got them on sale for $4 right now. And they've got a 6-tray food dehydrator, regularly $200 on sale for $80. So those are in the show notes. I'll get them into the live chat as well. And we do have an email. Actually, before I do that, anybody have any shout outs? Nope. All right. So we've got an email from Jerry, and it reads, I really appreciate your podcast. I'm new to preparedness for things beyond seasonal occurrences, but I've become more serious about starting preparations for scenarios that would lead to more long-term survival situations. I'm looking to learn skills that would make me valuable to any group should the need arise. Things such as amateur radio, first aid, bushcraft. I would love any advice you guys can give about how to go about picking up these skills, as well as any others you would recommend. I know as far as amateur radio goes that you've talked about local clubs that can be found all over. Thanks for the great podcast. I enjoy learning everything I can through it. So, yeah, I'd say first off, go back over some of the episodes we've got here. We've touched on pretty much all of it. I know Alan would be happy to just completely nerd out on first aid all day, every day. If we do an episode every week on that, we would. But we've done a couple of really good episodes on first aid. Amateur radio, we've done at least 3 or 4 now.
I was just about to say, let's not lie, Eric. You would do a podcast all day, every day on amateur radio.
Yep. You know what? I absolutely would. Yep.
my advice to Jerry is come join us on the Discord channel, where you will learn about all of these things, have an opportunity to ask questions, and have probably 10 answers to every question that you ask, and some of them might be right. Yep. But that's honestly the resource there. We're almost 200 members strong there now, and it's 232. There's a lot of 232. So we're up there. Community is growing every day. Yep. Somebody knows the answer to what you're asking or what you're not sure.
Even
of.
With Ian trying to get us shut down, we're still growing.
That's right. So we were 233, and then Ian opened his big mouth, and now we're at 232.
Yeah,
and on the radar. Yeah. But everything that you've asked, everything that you've mentioned in your email, we have a specific thread for it. So, and about 400 other things. So I would say that's the place to start, right? Learning through things as where do I start as a hobby? How do I make myself more valuable? What do I learn about first aid? Right, all of those things, and just a massive amount of information about amateur radio as well.
And I would say too, don't jump into all 3 all at once. A lot of people will do that. They'll say, I want to learn about all 3 of these things, and they'll jump into all 3 of them all at once. Focus on rate them in level of importance according to your situation and your scenario, and then focus on one at a time. Because
and
jumping
I'll just throw
into
it out there, I agree with Eric, which doesn't happen all that often. I agree with Eric.
More so than you and me agree more than me and Ian.
I'll just throw it out that first aid is probably more universal than radio or bushcraft.
I was going to say that. I was
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, because you can't do amateur radio or bushcraft if you're dead.
That's exactly right. And in terms of where to take training, check with your local hospital, like whatever your local trauma center is. A lot of them do stop the bleed. Like I know one of our local hospitals here does a monthly class, and it's just like it's a pre-register, but it's a drop-in. It's free. It's usually in the evening. You go for 45 minutes. They have the They're really big, like the big traumatary that's like the dummy that's going to leak out of all the corners, and you've got to pack the wound and all that stuff. So it's an excellent course to that you can usually get for free. So I would say that's a really good place to start. Videos, all those links that I just put in, those are a great place to start. And then when it comes time for a little bit more serious training, hit me up in the Discord channel and we can talk about your specific needs.
There we go. And I've thrown the link to the Discord in the live chat a few times, and I will make sure that I get a link into the show notes as well, so it gets pushed out to all the podcast platforms. So come on over and join us there. It's like Alan said, we've got a channel in the Discord for pretty much every topic. And if you join and you find that there is not a topic, just put a message to me and say, hey, I'd like a channel for this, and I'll create it. And then away we go. All right. Well, with that, I will bring episode number 176 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or, of course, your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It does help other people find us, as long as it's not a 1-star review. See, I'm bringing that back.
Poor 1-star review. That's going to haunt your dreams, eh?
It is.
We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we are going live. You can contact me at Alan, that's with 1L, at prepperpodcast.ca, or drop me a line in the Discord channel, either by message. I'm just safety nerd. It's easy to find. Or you can find a few of the chats or the few of the threads that I'm pretty active in. I have an alert set up for those.
Yeah, I'll mention in the Discord, all the panelists are listed in Discord as panelists and as moderators, so they're easy to find.
I refuse to moderate because it means that Discord wants me to put 2-factor authentication on my phone, and it wants a separate app for it. And frankly, I just don't care. So
2-factor is important. The nerd in me is screaming right now.
I believe that you believe that.
And you can reach me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. And like the rest of the panel, I spend quite a bit of time on the Discord app. So again, as has been mentioned, if you've got questions, throw it in there and one of us will try and give you the right answer.
You can reach me at crossrifleranch@gmail.com. I'm also on the Discord at Abbott11B. You can find me in there. Holler at me, reach out anytime, any questions. I'll do whatever I can to point y'all in the right direction if I don't have the answer.
Awesome. And,
He'll just make it up like the rest of us do.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we're doing is making this stuff up. Yeah.
That's how I've gotten this far in life.
Yeah, hey. Check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat. You can also get me on the Discord or at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.